Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
No, we're not going to a WWE match here without walk-up music. It's time for analysis on baseball from the weekend from Coach Jim Toman, just a bit outside. Coach, you must have given NC State a bit of a pep talk or something before they went up to Clemson because they turned around, played some really good baseball, and took 2 out of 3 from the Tigers. Welcome in.
You know, I did text Elliot Avent, the coach, last week and said good luck because they've been up and down. They've been struggling, and they go to Clemson and end up almost sweeping them, 2 out of 3. And then I'm heading to Raleigh on Thursday. I'm going to watch Chapel Hill against the Wolfpack Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Then I'm going to head down to Florida for a week to watch my son play a little pro ball. But I'm going to be on the road a little bit here.
Well, that's fantastic. Lucky you. I can't think of a better way to spend the spring than going around the various parks and watching baseball. What happened? What was the difference for State? What didn't go well for Clemson?
Well, you know, I had told someone previously, I won't tell you who it was, but it was someone way up in the baseball circles that Clemson was due to lose. You cannot continue to play like they did for the entire year. And, you know, it'll come back and they'll learn from it. But they're still ranked number 1 in the country. They're 29-6. They're 11-4 in the ACC. I think they're down to number 4 in Baseball America. But that's they'd probably sign for that if you're talking about after 35 games before the season started, and being number 4 in Baseball America. But it started during the midweek. They lost to USC Upstate, who continually plays some good schools, and Upstate has a nice program, and they lost 9-5. So I kind of felt like Clemson might have been a little vulnerable and ready to lose a few, and it wasn't a likely candidate to beat them because NC State had been struggling. They had lost 5 or 6 in a row. And but NC State beat them 11-8, and then they beat them 4-0, and then Sunday Clemson came back and won 7-0 to avoid that sweep. But really, the first rough week for the Tigers. They're still number 1 in the RPI, and I think this week might get them going again. If they play decently, they should go 4-0. Charlotte is 16-20. They play them Tuesday, and Pitt is 14-18 and 4-14 in the ACC. So if they play well, you know, they should be 3-1 or 4-0 this week and maintain their spot in the top 5 in the country.
How much would they be hurt by an extended absence, if not the rest of the season, with Andrew Shufo, the shortstop?
Yeah, well, injuries are part of the game, and they have a lot of depth, and they have a lot of different infielders that they can move around. Now, you never want your starting shortstop to get hurt. I remember last year South Carolina at one point had their first baseman out, their second baseman out, their third baseman out, their shortstop out. I mean, they were actually playing their catcher at third last year a little bit, and it really affected South Carolina late in the year. But I think Clemson right now has a little bit more depth in the infield, and I think they're going to be fine. And I don't know how long. Is he out for a while? I haven't seen that report.
Yeah, we're supposed to hear something this week, knee situation, and sounds like it could be serious, but they haven't said it to as of today, anything about the length of his absence.
Let me go to work on that because I have a few connections over there. And,
yes.
One of my former coaches is one of their coaches, so maybe let me try to figure that one out.
Now,
let's go on.
But I got rule number 1 of journalism, and you must have been absent today. We taught you journalism to be on this show. Don't reveal your sources. I mean, it's nice to let people know. But when you say that,
no one knows who it is. It could be it could be the girl in the office for all you know. You know.
Well, okay, I hear you. What about the Gamecocks? Now, that was
Put it this way, it's not Donald Trump. It's not
all
Donald
right.
Trump.
How about the Gamecocks? They, they showed life when they beat Texas A&M, and then they go and beat North Carolina in a great game, I thought, in Charlotte, and they go win 2 out of 3 at Florida.
Great week. The RPI is up to 15. They're 25-11. They're 8-7 in the SEC. I think they're back in most of the polls. I think they're 19th in Baseball America. Right now, if the season would end, I'd say they were a host or maybe a bubble host for a regional. Now, I will say this. Beating UNC was big, and Florida right now, they're in a lot of trouble for the regionals. I mean, they're 18-17. They're 7-8 in the league, and their RPI is 43, and they have not been playing well. So this week, South Carolina has a big opportunity, and if they want to host the regional, they can do it by beating Arkansas 2 out of 3, and they're almost a lock at this point to host the regional if they do that to Arkansas. Arkansas right now is number 2 in the country. And even if they win one, I'd say they're probably, in a good position to host. We still have a lot of baseball ahead of us. We've got to get through the Citadel and then figure out how to beat number 2 Arkansas. They're 30-5, and it's just a big week for the Gamecocks. But we went down to Florida and beat them 2 out of 3. They're not Arkansas. Arkansas is pretty darn good, and they have really good lefty that might be a Player of the Year candidate. So they'll have their hands full, but it being at home, I think we have a chance there to really help the resume in regards to hosting a regional. Same situation with Coastal Carolina. They're up to 21 in Baseball America. If the season were in today, they might be a 2 seed, and they may send them to South Carolina or Clemson if both of them are hosting. But their RPI is 22 in the country. They're 9-6 in the Sun Belt, which is unusual because Louisiana came out of nowhere, and they're 14-1 in the Sun Belt right now. And they're ranked number 19, and they're 28-9, and Coastal happens to play them this weekend. Okay, so biggest weekend coming up for Coastal. They play number 13 UNC on Tuesday, and then they have Louisiana coming in, and they're 14-1. Now Coastal is 9-6. Troy is 9-6. Southern Miss is 9-6. Georgia Southern, Georgia State, they're all 9-6. That's a heck of a league. I think it's the 4th best RPI league in the country, but they're well behind. Louisiana is 14-1, so they have a 5-game lead over everyone that's in second place, and there's 5 teams in second place. So it'll be a great weekend there. Great weekend with the Gamecocks at Arkansas. Just college baseball at its best. We have a new number 1. Texas A&M is 1 now. Arkansas is 2. Tennessee's moved up the ladder to number 3. I think Clemson in Baseball America was number 4. Talking the other teams in the state of South Carolina, PC swept Winthrop, but they're still high RPI, 192. But they're 19-17, and they're 10-2 in the Big South, so they've got a good conference record. USC Upstate, big week for them. They beat 2 out of 3 at the Citadel. They probably should have swept them based on the records, but they did beat Clemson in the middle of the week. They're 24-11. They're 10-2 in the Big South, like Presbyterian, and I think they're a game behind Liberty for that. No, Liberty isn't in that conference anymore, Big South. But their RPI, USC Upstate, is 67. So it's very difficult for them mid-majors, other than maybe someone like Coastal or Southern Miss, to get them RPIs up high enough to get in that large bid. So they're going to have to try to figure out how to win that tournament there in the Big South. College of Charleston had a really good week, and this is what can happen to a mid-major RPI-wise. I believe they went down 11, according to my calculations, which they went 4-0 for the week. I mean, they beat Charleston Southern, and then they swept Monmouth. But, Monmouth's RPI was in the 200s. So they win 4 games, and I think College of Charleston is at 81 RPI now. They went down 11 points. So kind of a problem with the RPI is when you go 4-0 as a college baseball coach, you're feeling pretty good, and then you look at the RPI and you went down 11 points. I've been in that situation, and it's not much fun. But anyway, they are having a good year, 24-10. They're 9-3 in the CAA. The Citadel has not picked up a win in the Southern Conference yet. They're 16-18 OPR overall, and they're 247 in the RPI, so they're kind of way down there right now. Charleston Southern's hanging in there. They're 16-20, 8-4 in the Big South. RPI of 159. Wofford's having a darn good year. They went up 21 points in the RPI. They beat University of North Florida, and then they went on the road and beat FIU 2 out of 3. So pretty good squad. FIU was 134 in the RPI. So Wofford's up to a 64 in the RPI, 24-10, 6-3 in the Southern. And Winthrop went down another 18. They're in the 200s in the RPI. They got swept by PC. They're 13-20-1. I got a few shout-outs if you got a few minutes.
Well, I'll tell you what, before you do that, we got about 4 minutes. Talk Kentucky for a second. What's made Kentucky so good to this point in the season?
Well, I did have a halfway point Coach of the Year candidate, and I was thinking that Eric Backett would be number 1 for me in regards to last week and the last 6-7 weeks being number 1 in the RPI. But Nick Mingione, my goodness gracious, he was one of my shout-outs here. He actually they're leading the SEC with a 14-1 record. They swept 3 teams in a row, which does not happen often in the SEC, but they swept Ole Miss, they swept Alabama, and they swept right through the state of Alabama down at Auburn. So Ole Miss, Alabama, and Auburn, Kentucky swept them. They're 14-1. They're 30-5. They're actually leading the SEC overall with a 14-1 record. And I think they're up to number 2 or 3 in one of them polls, maybe the D1 baseball poll. So you definitely have to give a lot of credit to Nick Mingione. I mean, they've been up and down in the past few years, and people are saying, well, he's not getting it done, and then he has a good year. Well, 30-5 and 14-1, they're having an incredible year, which looks like, they'll be a national seed. I don't know a whole lot about their squad, but if they just swept 3 SEC teams in a row, then you knew darn well that they're very good. Very good.
All right, shout-outs.
Shout-out, UGA, Charlie Condon.
Oh, I was going to ask you about him, too.
They played 36 games, Phil. He's hitting .482, right under 500, which is crazy. But the crazy thing is he has 24 home runs already in 36 games. Got to be leading the country. And, he's the favorite right now if he continues hitting to be the player of the year, maybe nationally for sure in the SEC right now. So he's incredible. I would just pitch around him or hit him or something. I don't know. Every time I watch on Twitter, the ball's going right down the middle and it's going over the fence. So I'm pretty sure they need to, maybe pitch around that guy a little bit. Another shout-out, Wake Forest. There's a kid there that was supposed to be a first-rounder this year. Early in the year, he only had 3 home runs in his first, 20 games. His name is Nick Kurtz. Well, in the last 9 games, Nick Kurtz for Wake Forest has hit 13 home runs. So he's up to 16 where he expected to be. But you're looking at the hottest hitter in the country from Wake Forest, 13 home runs in his last 9 games. And they're basically, most of them are, ACC teams that they're playing. I do have another shout-out. Let's give Preston McDonald. He's the coach at Florence Darlington Tech, a junior college in the state of South Carolina. He had 500 wins earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And he coached my son, Charlie Mack. So Charlie Mack got 7 of them wins for him and helped get him out to Grand Junction a few years ago. But he is, right now, Florence Darlington Tech, out of over 100 JUCO teams or more, they're 6th in the JUCO poll right now. So shout out to Florence Darlington Tech and Coach Preston McDonald doing a great job over there in Florence. And I've got another shout out here. I got to talk about Lamar.
All right, we got a minute. We got a minute.
I got it. Lamar, okay. First time in the top 25 in 25 years, and the coach is Will Davis, whose dad was the pitching coach at South Carolina, Randy Davis, who passed away in 2022. But Randy was a great guy, a great coach, and now his son is the coach at Lamar. I actually talked to him earlier in the year and said, hey, I need a job. I called 5 places that I wanted to coach, and I called him, and he said, why are you calling us? I said, well, I knew your dad a little bit, and I figured you guys are going to be pretty good. He was the only one that called me back out of 5. I only called 5 places. But at least Will Davis, give him credit. He called me back, and now he's in the top 25 for the first time in 25 years at that school. Last one, a shout down to Maryland Eastern Shore. They are still have not won a game. 0-29 overall. And the quiz for today is, what is the nickname of Maryland Eastern Shore?
They are the Chris, do you know that, Maryland Eastern Shore?
Not without looking it up, I don't.
I got you guys. All right.
They are the clam diggers.
Well, that's close. It starts with an H and ends in an S. It's called the Hawks.
Oh.
But anyway, I will shout out to myself. I did correctly pick Connecticut for the men's and the South Carolina women. I was 2-0. Someone owes me a lot of money. Wish I gambled. I would have been rich by now.
That's us. Coach, we got to go. We thank you. Great as always. Talk to you next week. Look forward to hearing from you.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Okay, guys. Take it easy.
Thank you very much. Just a bit outside with Coach Jim Toman. Should mention that Clemson freshman righty Aiden Canuck, ACC Pitcher of the Week.
As he should have been.
Yeah, great
as a matter of fact, you could almost throw Ethan Darden in there as well. He threw a complete game on Saturday in a loss. When was the last time you can remember a college pitcher going 9 innings and losing the game?
Yeah, that's very odd.
I mean, he was terrific, though, on Saturday night.